What's up, y'all? Frank the Guitar. This is InTheImageClothingCompany podcast. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, a company that addresses the human body and comes at it from the skeletal system because it's not about the fat content or the muscle mass that come and go, but it's about our skeletal system so that our body's natural foundation is just allowed to work. We come at the body through mostly clothing because it's the only thing that's placed on us at all times. So it's the only thing that can actually alter our bodies to that degree. But here we've got three sides to us, in addition to the podcast where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. We also have In The Image Clothing Company music, doing all things music. And we have the main side of things is what I call it, just the regular In The Image Clothing Company itself, where we discuss the anatomy of the human body and clothing, how those two things are going through life together when clothing's just a man-made thing and our bodies are not. We are all universally designed in the image, hence the clothing company, of our living God who is Jesus Christ. So our whole company is centered around the gospel. We're here spreading the gospel, preaching truth to the best of our sinful by nature abilities, because we're just human beings and we're messing up as we do it. But let me give a little rundown on some clothing stuff, and then we'll get into this episode of the podcast. This is episode 39 of In The Image Clothing Company podcast. So we understand here where clothing needs to fit on everybody, because the whole goal is just natural. The whole goal is allowing the human body to be unaltered because it only has one working position. Every single bone in the body only connects to the next one the way that it does. And every function in the body only functions the way that it does. So clothing can very, 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 very much inhibit the body's only natural way of doing anything. And natural is the only way it does anything. So clothing needs to be where the pants are entirely above our hips, for that waistband of the pants, because that way it's off of our hips. All the natural motion and mobility and range of motion within the hips will just be able to be there. And the waistband also needs to be slightly higher in the front than in the rear, because our core, people focus on the musculature of the body, which isn't necessary, because if your waistband is pulling your pelvis, just your hips, the whole structure of your hips down in the front, and you're trying to contract the core muscles to keep them as they would always naturally be, constantly activated, you're never going to win that fight. Neither would I. Neither did I in the past. Yeah. So that's why they need to be that way. And then you don't have to work out because your body is designed to work. Now, the tops that we wear, the seams on top of our shoulders need to sit behind that little bone that's up there. That's the other end of our collarbones. And that allows our shoulders to be in their neutral position and just be in the position that everything actually connects in, the only position they actually work in. Otherwise, you'll be in pain, stretching your pecs and your lats, and have neck tension and headaches. And then ideally right at the very edges for the edge seams of the shoulders, just because that's where your shoulder moves, man. That's just where the ranges of motion are in that ball and socket joint of the shoulder. Now, sweet. In addition to just allowing clothing to fit correct, because we can speak, me as the founder, I do speak for people across the globe on the other side of our earth that I've never met, because clothing is doing the same thing to them that it would do to me or the guy down the street, because the body is designed the same. So we also have two prerequisites in addition to what I just said, to just allow the body to be unaltered. In the Image Clothing Company's shoelacing technique, you can find where you find us on the internet. Included with the technique is to tie your shoes evenly over toward the inside to the center of your body on both feet to allow an even foundation traveling up the entirety of your being. And secondly, we say that you should do this, but not because we say so. All tags from within clothing need to be removed. Anywhere they are at, they're causing a gap, an unnatural gap that's just altering, again, the only way the body actually works. Otherwise, there's pain. Otherwise, there's functions that aren't functioning within it. That includes the tongues of the shoes or anywhere inside of them, because that'll either alter the natural dorsiflexion or plantar flexion of your ankle or that gripped arch that's within our feet. So, as I said, 39 is this episode's number in the Image Clothing Company podcast. This is titled Daily Bread. Now, I am not like so perfect on my knowledge of, well, anything, and never will I be in this life. But I don't know the story exact as far as to be able to tell it right now. But within the Holy Bible, you can go read it yourself. Anywhere you're at, you can probably find some access to the Bible if you're seeing this video. Because even on the internet, you can find Bibles. Just make sure it's true and translated correct. And yeah, I'd recommend the King James Version. Don't listen to me. I always say don't believe me. But I just speak on some stuff that, trying to just speak on truth, and that's it. So, yeah, when the Israelites were, I don't even know, because, I know the story, I've read it, but I don't want to be trying to tell it and then, tell it in a way that's not quite right, because that's what I'm basing this episode of the podcast on. But anyway, in the Holy Bible, there's this story, and what was happening is these people needed sustenance. They needed food, and our God... That's all I'm going to say. As far as the story, I'm not going to give so much context and tell it exactly how it happened, but the story of the daily bread in the Bible, in Moses' time, as far as I'm aware, I know this story pretty well, but when it comes to trying to tell things, I'm just such a simple person that normally when I'm telling stories anyway, I'm just and this is what happened, done. So there were people in the past, thousands of years ago, and they needed sustenance, they needed food, and they were relying on God. They prayed, and our Father rained bread from heaven. They called it manna, daily bread. Each day, he would give them the bread that they needed for that day, enough for each person, and he said, eat all of this today. Don't save any for tomorrow, but also don't ask for more. I'm going to give you exactly what you need for each day of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then on Saturday, he said, I will give you the bread that you need for today and tomorrow, because Saturday is the Sabbath. It's the day of rest. It's the seventh day when our God rested after he created the earth on the 6 days that he did that. That's why we have 7 days of the week. Now, he didn't give them their bread on Sunday, but he gave them enough to where they'd have it for Sunday. So Saturday, when they got both Saturday's bread and Sunday's bread, was the only day that they were told to save anything for the next day. All the other days of the week, it was, no, just use what you've been given. I've given you just enough. Here you go. So the point is, they weren't supposed to be asking for any more, but they also weren't supposed to worry if maybe tomorrow he was going to change his mind and not give him bread. Right? If they eat some of it and they're like, oh, maybe I could save the rest because who knows, just to be safe. Well, that's not what they were commanded to do. And so daily bread, it's kind of a two-edged type of thing. It's on both sides, where we don't need more than we need, but we also don't need to ration what we have. And this is a hard-hitting thing for me. Within my prayers the past few months, this has been huge. Praying to just keep me focused on daily bread. When I'm not sure what's happening from second to second, or tomorrow, I don't need to know, because we're only here. We're in one eternal now. And I keep praying for that. Just don't let me focus on how this is going to get me to wherever I think I'm going. Or once I finish this, all right, that's great, but then what? And also, when I have things and I have enough that, I can maybe save some, I don't need to. That's kind of one of the biggest ends that it's on for me. Is growing up, I used to ration things so much, man. I grew up with parents that just had such a scarcity way of living, and we're always holding on to everything, no matter what it was. And so I, was raised that way. to do that. That's what I saw. That's what I was shown to do, but really out of fear. One thing I've been really learning is to use everything that I have if I have it right there, and then not worry about how I'm going to get it again, because I just am under a God who is a perfect provider. And I'm an imperfect human being who has the potential to get a little bit fearful. But we're commanded not to. That's the thing we're commanded to do the most, is not fear. Over 300 plus times in the Bible alone, we're commanded to fear not. Thou shalt not fear. However it's worded. But, I was growing up and there was a lot of people who, they lived that kind of lifestyle. And within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it's common for people to go on a 2-year mission where they go out, like in biblical times, right? They go out 2 by 2 and they preach the word of our living God. And, a lot of people who had this kind of lifestyle were people who were, we call them returned missionaries, people who had just gone on a mission and now they're back. And yeah, man, one person in particular, I'm thinking of one of my friends growing up, he lived that way. And more so after his mission, at least I noticed it more once he got back from serving a mission. And yeah, within the church, that's what they do. Go out any part of the world that allows missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and go out and preach the gospel for 2 years with a companion. And they, switch off companions and rotate out. So, yeah, he was someone I noticed did that so much, man. Because I, especially in this time, I'm talking like late teenage years, maybe into early 20s. Yeah, he would just finish things. Growing up, that's what I'm saying. Like, my dad always told me, he's like, don't finish this, save some for later. And so what I would end up doing is just like saving the tiniest little bit of something. This like food, for example, not enough for a meal, but just like, well, he said to save some, so eat everything but like the last little bit, That's not living out of that whole commandment of daily bread. That's fearing man more than fearing God, who is above both of you. But I did that so much. And that's something I've been not doing so much anymore. So, that's huge though. I mean, growing up feeling like you better save some in case. That's not true. It's just a trap. It's just a lie. It's just fear talking. And a lot of times it's just the fear of the people around us because of what they're fearing. And that's what we're acting out of. So daily bread's a huge thing, man. And it's been so beautiful. I've mentioned within the podcast recently that I haven't been like with any form of income for quite a while. And that's been amazing, man. I mean, I haven't had a cell phone plan in, oh wow, it's coming up on a year, probably 10 or 11 months, just about. Shoot, I mean, maybe, yeah, very close to a year. And that's been cool. I'm 25. I had a cell phone since I was 13, except for this time period I'm saying right now. And I haven't had my own vehicle for a good while now. And I always did since I could drive at 16 years old. Even 15, I actually had my own vehicle and I couldn't drive alone yet, So, man, it's just living on daily bread. It's what we need to be doing, because that's all there really is. Because what we do is we hold on to these things, and we hold on to stuff, dude. And we're not actually in charge of if it's there or not, It could leave no matter how tight our grasp is around it. And with guitars, I've mentioned, this is Frank the guitar. I just did a little intro thing with him, but at the beginning of this podcast episode, in the Image Clothing Company podcast, episode 39, Daily Bread. But Frank's my 20th guitar, and I've talked about that. But My other guitars that I had, I'd have multiple guitars, and each guitar that I'd have pieces of guitars, like saddles and nuts and strings that were used that I had taken off, but I'm like, I better hold on to them just in case. And all this kind of stuff, multiple guitar cases, speaking of that. So, yeah, capos, multiple capos. And I had so many things and parts of guitars that I had taken off of other ones, and I just felt like I had to hold on to all this stuff. And now Frank's my only guitar. One capo, and I actually did keep the set of strings that I took off. And I was praying through and I was debating it, and, we're just learning, man. Because something like that, there is a justifiable side to that. But at the same time, no matter what, we got to be able to be trusting that our God will provide. Because it's not about if the world has this or that available, or if it seems like it would or could or should or this or that or what. It's, hey, our God is a miracle worker, and he is. So, yeah, man, I mean, just growing up, just always saving stuff, holding on to things, just keeping the last little bit of something, because who knows if I ever get it again. But I'm never going to use that last little bit either. But it's just like, seems like there's some kind of security in it, because in your mind, you're like, well, it's there, even though not really. It's like, you get a bag of chips, and my dad told me, don't finish this, save some. All right, well, how much, because then a lot of times he'd tell me, like, you didn't finish this and it went bad, so it's like, oh, shoot, okay, well, what do I do? So I'd leave like less than one serving. But now you feel a little bit more secure because you think you have it for later, but you don't even have enough to like actually feed you. So it's weird how we do these kind of things, But a lot of it's not something we would have done on our own, but we do it out of a patterning from our parents or people who raised us or childhood friends or the people that we admire. If we decide to take their ways of living and adopt them, we don't need to be doing that. We're our own human beings, and we don't need to get upset about not being our own human beings at certain times either, but we can know that our God's above everything. And that's the thing with these Israelites. They didn't know how they were going to make sure they could eat anything if the bread didn't show up the next day. But they were also breaking a commandment if they were to save it. I think that's the thing, is nowadays there's so much talk about saving things, saving money and holding on to things. And there's times and places for everything. I say that, and I say that, because that's how it is. But we don't need to be saving things and holding on to things out of fear that we won't have them when our God has promised us that he is there. We don't lack anything with him. No matter what we think that we lack, we don't. You don't gotta believe me on nothing, dude. But we'll do this kind of stuff with like relationships too, A lot of times you won't really like someone so much, but you'll just stick around them quite a bit, hang out with them quite a bit. If it's like the opposite gender, you're dating them just because, like, what if there's no one else that comes around? That kind of stuff is just entirely opposing that daily bread commandment. Because we're supposed to be taking what we're given and no more, but also no less. That whole being fake humble about stuff, like somebody offers you something and you love it, but you think you're going to just seem like a better person if you don't take it. That's actually wrong. That's the wrong end to be on. And that's how I was as well growing up too, is people would be offering me things and I wouldn't take the thing, but it wasn't going to have any kind of negative effect on that person if they gave it to me. They were offering because they wanted to give it to me. It was actually beneficial if I were to have received it from them rather than rejected it, right? That's daily bread. At the same, time. That's the same thing, even though it's a little bit of a different kind of like way of approaching it or seeing the dynamic of what it really means. That's it. Because, yeah, I definitely didn't take what I was given, I'd reject things. And, that's like not finishing all your bread because you feel like, even though I might be a little bit hungry, it's okay because at least I know that I'm doing what I can to have security for tomorrow. No, you're actually going against what you've been commanded is what you're doing. So I always call it the paradoxical gospel, right? I mean, it's the gospel of paradoxes. That's what it is, but I also love the alliteration. Now, it's just backward, right? I mean, we think a lot of times that if we take less of something, then that's doing a good thing, but it's really not, because we're supposed to be able to receive what we're gifted, or else it's like we're not being grateful. I think a lot of times we get the idea that we're being, trying to be more grateful if we don't take stuff, It's like, no, leave some for the next person, but like there's nobody else. But you're like, well, if they come, but then the thing like can't be used anymore, right? Daily bread. We're supposed to take what we're given. Yeah. That's the thing, man. I remember, having like gas money to fuel my car and just holding on to it, because what if I needed it later? It's all these what ifs, and that's, again, it's a damaging end. That's not what we should be doing. We should just be using what we have when we have it, because what ends up happening is we feel like we'll wait until we have like a surplus. But then what if we don't? I mean, we'll live our whole lives expecting to get into a better place, a place of more stability. And then at that point, we can start using what we have. It's not real. Because that's the thing is, as we talk about, we live in now. There's no future. There's no past. We're just here. And when we're waiting for things or when we're holding things on for later, there's no such thing as later. And our daily bread is a gift, but, it's kind of like you hear like those jokes about, like Hispanic moms making meals, and if you reject their cooking, then it's like, that's what it is. I grew up with this Hispanic family, and yeah, the mom was making me food all the time, and this is exactly what I'm saying. I would reject it all the time because I thought it was a nice thing to do. I thought like, no, you've got 6 kids, because she did. It's like, yo, save it for your kids, save it for later. Like you can have it, whatever. I was always saying no, and that was actually the wrong thing to be doing. Doctrinally, like, out of the truth of all things, the gospel of Jesus Christ, that's the wrong thing to be doing. Yeah, that's a mistake I made a ton of times. But then I was also like starving growing up, and I was malnourished for years for a lot of reasons. And she was offering to feed me, and I would just say, no, it's fine, no, it's fine. But to her, I'm not saying exactly how she took it, but that could have been taken as like rude, like, no, I don't want your food, She's not offering because she feels obligated. She's offering because she is offering. It's like our God. He's not obligated to give us anything, but he gives us things. We're supposed to receive it. Yeah. I love Moana. I've talked about that on the podcast, that movie by Disney. And in Moana, there's this line. Anyway, so I'm not going to say so much about it because, like, if you haven't seen it, I don't know if it's a spoiler or what. It's just a movie, but also at the same time, like, it's a great movie. So, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to, because the point is, like, I don't really care too much about spoilers within things, but I don't really care too much about that many things. But I love Moana. So, there's a line in there, though, where someone's like, what did she, it said something like, someone was trying to give someone something, and they're like, you can't reject a gift from a goddess, because the person was trying to do what I'm doing with this, family. I mean, this woman was basically my mom, my second mom that I grew up with in this family I'm talking about. And she was always trying to feed me. And I'm just like, no, it's okay. But the thing is, that's rude. That's wrong to do. And so, yeah, man, I think about our God. He doesn't need anything from us at all. There's nothing that we can actually do, taken with a grain of salt, but seriously, yeah, that's a whole thing that we might unpack here for a second. Because there's nothing we can actually do for him that can help him. Yet, we're here to gather scattered Israel, right? Talk about the Israelites. That's where the story's coming from. Israel is God's people. And over time, people stopped believing. People stopped being faithful. People started to trust in themselves and the things of the world that aren't trustworthy and that come and go and that have no power. And so over time, Israel, the people, right, as far as the people that descended from this godly man, Israel, they have been scattered and lost their faith. There's phrases in scripture that says, like, they've dwindled in unbelief, right? Now, we're here to gather Israel, and we're here to do missionary work. Like I'm saying, my friend who went on a mission, 2 years, he went out and he went to help people, teach people the gospel, and bring people to Christ. But at the same time, he could do any of that on his own. He doesn't need us, but he wants us to be able to participate in what he's doing here, the reason why he created this earth and the human beings that he created in his image. So again, paradoxical gospel. He doesn't actually need us for anything, but he'd love us to help him with stuff. He's the perfect father. And that's the thing, is a lot of times, good dads, I don't have so much experience with that. I'm not trying to say anything other than just seriously. But I've seen it, good dads, man, they'll have their kids come help them with stuff because the kid will enjoy it. And it's a bonding moment. They don't actually need help, but they're like, hey, you want to come help me with this? Because sometimes it's actually harder to do with them, quote unquote, helping you. But they'll do it because it's like a bonding moment, and that's our God. I mean, he is perfect in all things. And so having us help him with things isn't so much help, really, because we're sinful by nature. We mess up always. And he never does. But he still wants us to help him with things. So, yeah, daily bread. Yeah. Darn, I don't really know why I started off on this other part of this, but I'm glad I said that. So, yeah, man, I mean, he gives us opportunities, he gives us things, and he will. He doesn't have any kind of obligation. That's where I was starting with that with. He has no obligation to do anything for us, but he wants to. He's perfect. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, man, living with daily bread, because that's the thing, is whatever we think we're trying to get and hold on to and store up and whatever, you can't store up your treasures to heaven, where there's a scripture that says, don't store up yourself treasures on earth where rust will destroy it and thieves will break in and steal it, but store up yourself treasures for heaven, where nothing can tarnish it, nothing can take it away. And heavenly treasures are really what it boils down to is our obedience to our God. So that's what I'm saying, is he's commanded you to just take it, use it, don't hold on to it. But if you store it up, it's an earthly thing. It's a human thing to need food. We're not going to be needing food the same type of way in heaven. we're going to be perfect resurrected beings through Christ. And so, that's really what this life is for, is to prepare for dwelling with our God again. And we don't have to wait until after we die to do that. But, knowing that he's just as much here as he will be right there in front of our faces once we're dead is just not quite the same to us in our human understanding while we're on earth. We need to be able to trust him. And if he's saying to not hold on to things and not be so scared of not having, then we got to be able to do that. At least keep trying to get better at it. Because we're not going to be able to do that, as in perfectly, in this life. We're just human beings. We're just sinful by nature. We're just conditional. We have conditions of eat enough food or die. Keep the body at a certain temperature or die. Keep breathing only oxygen or die. I mean, we are very, very conditional beings as humans. But he's unconditional in every aspect of what that could mean. So no matter what it seems, when we're looking at our situation and what we have, and we're thinking it might be beneficial to hold on to some things here and there, it's not, no matter what. And that's weird, because even if it logically seems like it, even if you do some calculations and all this, blah, 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 I mean, how many times you hear stories about actual miracles and literally impossible to the human being's understanding of possible. But our God is everything, and so he has no impossible to him. He's the God of impossibles. So, yeah, daily bread. Well, that's something it's so funny. I love being spoken to in ways that are both literal and metaphoric, because I'll be like walking through the house and trying to figure out what to eat and things or what to do, and I'll see a loaf of bread and I'm like, all right. Because I've been praying to keep me in that mindset of daily bread. And then I get spoken to in a way that's both literal and metaphoric, because a big thing is feeling like you're out of food, man, when you've still got like a pantry with some food in it or a fridge with some food. You have food if you have food. And a lot of times it's like we get where we think is low, even if our low is more than anybody or somebody else just about ever has, we start to get to where what we think is low. And then at that point, we start freaking out. But if you have it, you have it. And that's the thing is it's kind of like what I discussed within the episode of the podcast, In the Image Clothing Company podcast, titled Minimalism. I think it was in the 20s number of podcasts. And I just talked about that, and that's just how it is, that the more we actually acquire of worldly things, the less that we really have. And that's just how it is. And so, daily bread, because the thing is with the manna, the literal daily bread from the Israelite story, and thousands of years ago, if they were to save it for the next day, it would have gone bad. And it wouldn't have done for their bodies what the point of our God giving it to them to do is doing, right? So that's the whole thing is, no, I've given you this because this is all you need for today. Tomorrow I'll give you more. Just trust me, And we live in a world where it's kind of hard to trust sometimes. And rightfully so. Yeah. I mean, wholeheartedly, rightfully so. Because, like I'm saying, we can't be trusted as human beings. I can't. No matter if I was the most trustworthy human being on the earth, I still can't guarantee that I can hold up my end of the bargain. Because if I tell you I'm going somewhere with you tomorrow and I die in my sleep tonight, well, shoot. Sorry, you trusted something that can't be. I'm a human being. We're all going to be able to mess up always. That's such a funny way to phrase that. But yeah, really. And so it's understandable to not be so trusting that you'll be provided for when you're looking at things out of an earthly, worldly lens, but we're earthly human beings. And so, that's the whole thing about us never being perfect in this life. But yeah, that's where faith comes in, man. Just trusting. And I think a big thing is remembering the last time things happened, the last time that you trusted God. And he came through in a way that just seems like there would have been no possible way because there wasn't, but he still did it. And that's how he works. And he wants to for us, which is crazy, but he does. So, yeah, daily bread. Yeah. We don't need to hold on to things. We don't need more than we need. I say that phrase all the time. Yeah, man. So, within the company, though, we, I say often minimize, simplify, allow. That's what we do within clothing for the human body. And similar thing, you don't need more than you need, or you don't need to do laundry if you have a closet full of clothes and 4 of them are dirty, and there's like 25 other ones in the closet. No, like, we need to be trusting. We need to just, because you have to see it on both ends, as I was saying. It's about only using what you need, but entirely using what you have and not holding back. Because I think sometimes daily bread gets understood in a way that's not how it actually is. I think that's the end we need to focus more on as human beings because of the way that we would approach it most commonly out of our own doings would be to use less. But really, daily breads, no, it's use it up. Use it up because it's there. And one day you might not have it. And use it while you do. If you need more, cool. If the word need is actually the case, then you'll get it. And that's it. And it's just about having faith that is how it will be. So, yeah, I love that. I really do. We don't need to get after ourselves, but we do need to get better at things if we can. And we can. We really can. So, yeah. Just not knowing where your next anything is going to come from, but not needing to. Because it's kind of like what I was saying about no matter what, you can't trust a human being. Sit on that for a second. You also can't ensure that no matter what, you're going to be able to provide for yourself. So even if we want to take it on the other end and not trust God that he will provide when he's promised us that he will, and he is the perfect promise keeper. If we're trying to do the other side of things and trust in ourselves as much as we possibly can, and we can't. Because we can't ensure anything for our own selves, not just others. So, daily bread, fully using up everything that we're given. That's what it's for. That's why we have things. Things are conditional as well. Food, for example, if you don't use it all, it's like what I was saying when I was younger. It would just have gone bad, and then I was trying to please man more than God, and then I didn't even get anything out of it because now it's gone bad and it got thrown away. Daily bread. No matter what, turn your face away from the people around you and turn it to God. Even if those people seem kind of scary, man, they're not the top dogs. Never will they be. Never will you be. No. So, yeah, dude. Daily bread. It's the times when things make the least sense, when, our God can do more Well, I mean, because there's no time that he would be limited in anything that he could do, but meaning when we're willing to get out of the way and stop controlling, that's where that word surrender comes from. If we can just realize that if we stop trying so hard, then he can step in and do his thing, you know? We just got to get out of our own way. That's the whole thing. Because it's not, that's why it's the paradox. It's not about once you get so much better at this and that, then you'll be better at doing it and providing for yourself, providing for your family, and this and that and that and this, and you have more security, and you'll make sure that you have these things and this. No, no matter how like good you get as a human being, you're never going to get to the point where that's how it is. That again, paradox. The better we get is when we realize that we can't do it and we let God. That's the whole thing. Daily bread. That's how you're going to actually advance, quote unquote, is stop trying to be the one who provides and know who does, always, and know him. Yeah. And we all can, man. So, daily bread. Yeah, daily bread. And everything, dude. I mean, no matter if it's scary, because things have the potential to be scary as human beings in a world that we don't fully understand and never could in this life. Yeah. All right. So, yeah. Like I said, my name is Evan Strong. This is episode 39 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, titled Daily Bread. We, being a clothing company, will have clothing available, staying centered, fitting correct, allowing the body to work, natural materials, and just purchase it in your size. We don't do oversized clothing here because our bodies don't. If you'd like to purchase that when it comes time for that to be something you can do, then cool, you can do that. You don't have to purchase clothing from In the Image Clothing Company in order to allow your body to work, but we'll just provide stuff that will be good when there's a lot of disgusting clothing out there. Really, just, imbalanced designs and fake materials. Yeah, there just is some terrible stuff that people are making. It's like what I was saying, the more that we actually have, the less we really do. So, yeah, simple stuff from us, man. Now, yeah, we're going to change the world, dude. I mean, it's not about like me, I'm going to change the world, but it's like what I'm saying. Our God doesn't need us to do anything, but he gives us the opportunity to be a part of the things that he's doing and to help him out with stuff. And so otherwise we wouldn't be here. We don't need to. I mean, we're not going to like change stuff just because we're so good, because we're not good. We're evil, actually. So when I say that, though, it's real. I mean, we're going to change the world because we're going to just, be vessels to help people spread information and truth and the gospel, help people's physical bodies function, change lives because it's stuff that lasts forever. You teach someone how to tie their shoes evenly, lasts forever. You teach somebody any kind of thing about where clothing needs to fit on their body, change their life forever. You introduce someone to Jesus Christ and you've changed their life forever. So that's what I mean when I say we're going to change the world. I mean it. I mean it. It's what I'm here to do. It's not about me. I mean it. It's cool, man. I've been saying that for quite some time, and it doesn't matter, if I die tomorrow. Probably change the world in a few little ways here and there, Yeah, there's some events looking back that I could, would definitely say I changed the world, even if it was just like a little part of it. And so I've already done it, right? It's not like, again, I'm not waiting for something huge. I'm thinking about that daily bread. I'm thinking about this podcast episode right now that I'm still currently filming and how this could potentially change somebody's life. And in doing that alone, I changed the world. Snowball effects, We're just one little person and we don't really matter, but there's a lot we can do. And that doesn't make sense, but it's the gospel of paradoxes, So I just want to be very clear. I'm going to change the world. It's not about me. No kind of fake humility kind of thing. It's not, but Moses changed the world. It wasn't about him. You know what I mean? We're vessels. We can look at certain tools that are in our lives or in our, and they had a really big part in changing the world, but it's a tool. That's what I am in the hands of my God. So that's what I mean. I'm going to change the world. Even if I get sniped from the window behind me right now, as in right now, I'm just doing what I'm doing in the moment. Daily bread, that's what I mean. It's not about like thinking about, you just wait 25 years from now when I, it's like, no, man. Then too, sure, but if then doesn't exist, then now, like, I don't know. A lot of times the people that change the world are the people who died. And we don't know anything about them until after they die. And then we hear about their story a little bit before they were killed or whatever happened, Change the world, but from the grave, in a sense. Like, I'm not trying to have an expectation. I'm just saying it, dude. For a reason. Yeah, because we change the world in little ways. The little things we do. I saved someone's life one time. Gave somebody, CPR. I changed her world, You give somebody a little conversation that they've been needing for the past week, and you've changed the world in a sense. Like, this is real kind of stuff. I'm not some kind of like making huge expectations and nothing. Ideally, there's no expectations on any of our parts because it's the same thing. We can't, we're not in charge, but we can change the world with one little piece of daily bread at a time. Seriously. It's moment-to-moment successes, moment-to-moment victories, Teaching your kids to tie their shoes evenly over toward the inside. You've changed the world. Anybody they ever come in contact with will be really essentially meeting a different person than if their shoes were tied unevenly. And you can't quite know to what extent that actually is until you start doing these things yourself. I mean it. I'm going to change the world. And it can look like that, So, daily bread. One thing at a time, one day at a time, Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about it. I'm not sitting here thinking about, all right, cool, let's plan this up. I'm going to be selling out stages with my guitars, and I'm going to be like, on news channels talking about In the Image Clothing Company. And yeah, we've helped now 85 countries across the globe with teaching them how to, just allow their body to work through clothing. It's like, I don't know. Who knows? You help a mother who's got 4 kids and back pain, but she's wearing oversized clothing, and you just show her how to make it fit. And now her whole mothering experience and the rest of her life has been changed. You've changed the world. That's what I'm talking about. As in, that's literally what I talk about. That's what this company is. That's the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that is what daily bread really is. Those little tiny things, the small miracles. The waking up the next morning thinking, man, I'm sure hungry and I don't really know. How am I supposed to really know if bread's going to come raining from the sky for today? Because I sure could use some nourishment. And then there it comes, right? That's changing the world right there. A story that has lived on for thousands of years because it's eternal truth. Some bread falling from the sky. That's changing the world. Something small. Yeah. Yep. So, needless to say, I know that Jesus Christ lives. And I know that he knows everything and that he's now and here and for all of us. And I know that the more that I realize that I don't know, the more that I get out of my own way. And then he's allowed to do what he does best, which is the impossible, as far as what we would call that. Being human beings, being scared, looking around and feeling like we don't have anything when we have more than we actually need. So, daily bread. Like I said, today's it's the 15th of January. Actually, I don't know if I said it at the beginning, but that's the date, 2025. But it's because it's past midnight. It's, it's for me, as far as like I haven't slept between, it's still the 14th, but again, we're just human beings dictated by something that doesn't exist. A little kick of a hand on a circular thing. But why do we call it a hand when it's just a little piece of plastic or metal going around? Yeah, daily bread. Taking the little things as they come and not expecting anything else, because whatever else you're expecting doesn't exist. Only now exists. That's what I mean. I'm not sitting here planning for something. It doesn't exist until it's now. But I'm sitting here eating my daily bread as far as making episode 39 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. And here we go. This is changing the world. It's changing my world. Because I'm sitting here and I haven't shaved. At least not cleanly. I actually shaved last night. But just shortened things. I'm just on the floor against the wall. I have no layout for these podcasts besides just kind of an idea of what to title it and a topic to go off of, and then there we go. And I'm sitting here with my daily bread, eating the nourishment that's coming out of me as far as the living word of our living God that comes through me in ways that I don't know exactly how it's going to look until it happens. But there you go, daily bread. You don't know if it's going to happen until it does, but it doesn't happen until it does. It's not even a possibility until it is. It doesn't exist until it's there. And our God is always. So here we are in the now. Yeah, just right now. This is our daily bread. This is our don't worry about tomorrow, because what if you don't even make it? And that's not a bad thing. It's a possibility. You can be saving for your retirement in 40 years, but what if you die in 3? It's not a bad thing, but it might happen. So what are you going to do then, Yeah, it's daily bread, dude. It's every day. It's now. It's, hey, that's the lesson, ain't it? That's why he told them to do that, because learn how to trust. Because I'm perfect, says our God to us. So try to see that, even though I know you never quite will in this life. That's why you're here, to struggle and to, go back and forth with your faith and, trust. But try, because I don't go back on my own word, he says to us. So that's what daily bread really is. That's what it means. It's trust. In a world of distrusting humans, sinful people, evil all around. Yeah, really. Daily bread. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have what's called Fast Sunday. It's just about always, maybe it is always, but I don't know if there's exceptions, the first Sunday of each month. It's called that because what we do is go, I don't know what it's like. I think the parameters, quote unquote, are like go without a meal, right? The first meal of your day, don't eat. And yeah, but it doesn't have to be just your first meal. I mean, you can fast the entire day, or you can start that day and fast for the next 3 days or whatever, right? But that's what it is it's a church-wide thing that gets us in the habit of knowing that it's okay to go without something that we feel like we can't. Because you can, as a human fleshly being. I always talk about the body's just a mechanical machine, but you can go without some food for like days easily. Yeah. I mean, some people might have certain conditions that require certain things, but having one day out of a month that we set aside to have that be the intention, that's what the point is can we try? Can we just try to trust? Can we just try it? Try it for one meal? See what happens? There's people all over the globe that sometimes only get one meal every day or two, or 3 or 4 days for years, or like most of their life. And, around here where I'm currently at, United States of America, it's like some people are like a whole meal all the way till lunchtime. You've got like 9 o'clock church. It's like you get back at like, it's like 11:30 or noon and you're eating. It's like, man, I had to wait all morning to eat this daily bread, man. That's the point, is getting us used to not looking at things from a worldly lens, because our God is above all. We can get so caught up and worried about we missed a meal, but some people don't have a second thought about, being able to eat it every day. Sometimes they only get to eat every other day, commonly for like a big part of their life. So it's that perspective, it's that understanding, and it's that knowing that our God knows us perfectly. And so daily bread. And that's what fasting will do for you. One of the biggest things. There's a lot of reasons we fast. And that's a beautiful thing to do. That's something I was praying about last night, actually, because I ate some food right before I came in here to film this episode of the podcast, In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. Last night I was praying. I'm like, Father, do you want me to fast? Right now is a big time in my life for a lot of reasons, and you don't got to believe that, and it doesn't have to be big for any kind of like way you think big is, but it is for the reasons that it is. And there was some time in my life, probably right around a year ago, that I was fasting a lot. I mean, I would fast for like whole days at a time for many days within a week. And I haven't fasted even like, what I would consider any way that actually matters in quite a while. But that's not a problem if we're not being commanded to. So that's what I was doing. I was like asking, like, Father, do you want me to fast? Because it's not an expectation, but it's like you can tell when things are going to happen, and you got like a decently good idea of what they are, even though you have no idea how. At certain times in our lives, we can have that ability to know things like that. And I know that right now is a time like that for me. Again, whatever that looks like, even if whatever happens doesn't look to anybody else like it was some big thing, or if it's not what I was expecting or whatever. I mean, you just get some feelings and you just know. And I was like, do you want me to be fasting today? And the answer was no. And so that's the other thing, it's like that side of daily bread where, no, what I want you to do is eat. I want you to get nourished. I want you to make sure that you have the energy that I need you to have to do the things that I need you to do. And I didn't know I was going to film this episode of the podcast until like right around I was done eating in there. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not a cut and dry thing about anything, I mean, our God is the most confusing to a human being because there's no limits to him, and we are very limited by everything. So, yeah. Anyway, daily bread. I'm going to cut it right there. Like I said, I don't know. I was going to restate some of the things that I state at the beginning and the end, but I already kind of did that part of the way through, and I do that sometimes as well. So, shout out to Frank the Guitar. Check out In The Image Clothing Company music. It's so cool. Don't believe me. You don't got to care if I think it's cool or not, but it is. So, thank you.